Hi, welcome to Rapture. I'm so glad you're here. Now, I want to begin in the most fundamental place with your vision of what we call love. To begin with a deep, true vision so that we can build out a specific path to that vision. That's why we're here right now. First, just to relax a little bit, just give your limbs a little shake, take a deep breath, get something that makes you feel comfortable so you can get through this process. I want to come into the process with some joy, some curiosity, and a little play. This is why I launched the Bloom model with the play seed, and I want to start the same way here. If you're in this relaxed state, it makes it a little easier for your nervous system to kind of soak in what we're going through, and then we can work around. This is a charged topic, and there are a lot of old wounds we're going through, and all of that. We know that. So I want to start a little bit lighter. And you might want to get a notebook so you can record some of this. It's okay to go through it once and then do the activities. But if you actually do the activities and you write them down, it makes it more tangible and real, and you'll get a lot more out of it. I've noticed that when clients just rely on me to send them notes, they don't seem to get as much out of it. There's something about using all the senses, all the parts of the brain when you record things yourself. So I have a few questions for you to get started with, okay? What role has intimacy played in your life? How has it shaped your life? What gifts has it given you? And I'm going to have you start recording your thoughts here in a moment, because I know thoughts arise with that. What do you think love and intimacy are for? I think most of us start with a fundamentally flawed assumption that makes it impossible to get our needs filled. And where did you inherit your ideas of partnership? Was it from parents, stories, movies, something else that you saw, just an inner knowing? And then lastly, how do you get your needs filled? How have you gotten your needs filled? How are you committed to getting your needs filled? So, again, take a deep breath. And just remember, we're going to break these all down into smaller pieces, and this is to get your mind and heart churning, to get us started on this process, which is a big leap. The starting is the most challenging. Once we get the momentum, we'll be flowing freely. And I'm going to talk about the 4 branches of intimacy. And this will allow you to create an environment where you can get your needs met much more easily and put a lot less strain on your relationship. And I'm going to briefly mention the 5 love languages. And these are the gestures of love that some of us resonate with more. That's not the purpose of this, and you can get a lot of info on that in other places. I just want to bringing these up as a reminder at the onset is a good way to kind of design what we need and structure what we need in this piece of our life. So it's funny and it's sad that one of our biggest sources of suffering in the world are misaligned or abusive relationships. And these can lead to all sorts of consequences: loneliness, trauma, heartache, anxiety, depression, etc., etc. And they can damage the lives of, children and parents and ourselves and siblings. And I get consolation in the fact that I think we're all destined to go through what we're destined to go through. So that brings me consolation, and you are here for a reason. That's one of my fundamental beliefs. So that being said, let's start to create your path now. Now, there are as many paths as there are individuals, so this has to be very uniquely you. If I laid out some path to intimacy or romance, that's already what you've gotten from somewhere else. It's not going to serve you, and it's not going to work, because I have different needs than you, and you have different needs than her, and she has different needs than the next person. So as we create this path, this is where I want you to just start noticing and being witness to your thoughts and your sensations that are arising. You're going to notice thoughts as I talk through these topics, because these are very charged topics. And these thoughts and sensations I'm going to show you how to make them your signposts and your clues and your guides, and we're going to start to get to know them now. Eventually you'll be able to map them to your different emotions and your different, their different origin stories. For now, it's just notice them and record them. Just start to record them in any rudimentary pattern. There's a thought tracking worksheet attached. You can use that. You can use paper. You can use whatever you need. It doesn't really matter. We're not here to be perfect. We're going to let ourselves off the hook and we're going to do what works. Now, I wanted to load this up with everything I knew, and that wouldn't serve you or me. This is more about you need certain things to get to the next level, and that's what we're going to focus on. There are a lot of thoughts running under the surface that are keeping you from your ideal relationship. Even when you're in it, you might not notice. So, and by the way, when I say you, I mean we as humans. Some of these things I've overcome, some I'm still working on. It's just my place in life to be a guide on this path. So as for these thoughts preventing you from fully stepping into this role, until you catch them, they can operate under the surface. They will operate under the surface and wreak all kinds of havoc on your life. Werner Erhard called these rackets because you got paid under the table. You get some reward for it. And until you pull it to the surface, figure out what that reward is, figure out what that story is, and reframe it. So we want to catch these thoughts instead of letting them run subliminally. And we are constellations of stories, okay? The reason I phrase our identity in that way is because it allows it to be very loose and fluid. You're not who you think you are. You're billions of cells being born and dying every moment and every second. Organs are being reborn. You know, something remains, however, it's not what we think. The reason I say this is because we need to be very loosely attached to what we think we've been, so there's room for change. And I'll show you ways to do this with language in your body and your mind. So where you've been is not a particular place. You weren't over there in this story. Your past wasn't this thing where you were at A and now you're at B. Because everything's more fluid than that, and so are you. Your patterns, they're not some kind of shackles, you're not imprisoned by them. There are certain things you do and have done to kind of magnetize those to you. And we're going to shift and break some of those during the course of this program. So we need to, when I say the past isn't where you've been, the past isn't even concrete. Isn't that interesting? The past is based on our thoughts and our processing of the past. I can't tell you how many times I've helped clients and people release their father by healing the relationship when the father has been gone for 10 years. Because the past is still fluid as well. It depends on the present chapter. Can you see that? Once a client was upset about something his grandmother had done many, many years earlier. And then he discovered this note from her, decades after she passed away, and it reframed his whole story. The past is free to be reframed. We're only holding on to it based on what we think we know. The reason I want to put that out there is because you are free to be what you need to be. And you're free to rewrite this chapter. Every breath is a chance to choose again. So are you ready to live out this chapter of your life as the best one yet? That's a profound question. I'm not asking for an immediate answer. Are you ready? Are you ready? You can rate your readiness on a 1 to 10. And any answer is okay. Now, most people don't succeed in relationships on the visible level because they set it up as an impossible equation. And then they're heartbroken when it doesn't work out as planned. In fact, it can't, it never could, because the assumptions that their vision was based on, they weren't real, they weren't even possible. I often say that with clients I make what was impossible possible, and we do this not through willing and achieving and positive affirmations, but through reframing the story, so that I like to think of it as what was impossible before becomes inevitable, because all these pieces are going in the same direction finally, and it takes some deep work to get to this point, and that's what we're going to do. That's what we're doing now. And this is why I want to kind of reassess intimacy, its purpose, and the 4 branches of what we consider intimacy. Contrary to popular belief, the role of intimacy is not comfort, okay? It's growth. When someone says it's comfort, I freak out. Because if it's comfort, you don't get another need met, which is a need for adventure and inconsistency and growth. Comfort and certainty and security is one of the needs, one of the section of needs. And the consistency does provide some comfort, and that does fill a need. Yes, of course, we want some of that. And if you just use intimacy to fill a void, then it becomes something like an addiction. Then you have 2, wolves clawing at each other. Normally I like to think of it as we are these shapes, and if you're a shape like this, you'll have another person come and fill that emptiness in you. And I want you to start to think of it as you are 2 complete wholes. You come together like so. And in the middle is your beautiful relationship. On the outsides is your beautiful life that you're creating. It's not like everything is anchored into, we're not complete, we attach like this. When we come apart, we are still incomplete and we are both broken now. So that's something I invite you to release. If you're living life and love in that way, it's not empowering because it doesn't allow you to be fully you. And if you're not allowing yourself to be fully you, then you'll continually apologize and think you're doing something wrong and shame yourself, and it's just this endless loop. Does that sound familiar? Have you done that? I know I have. So these are some of the tools for getting out of that. So as far as where we inherit these from, romantic movies, they're fictions designed to elicit a certain emotion by building very structured sequence. And we've been indoctrinated into those stories, those concepts since birth. The fairy tales, the Disney movies, the romantic comedies. I'm very aware of this now because I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm just always tracking what she's watching and how she's learning, and she'll just immediately come out of a princess story and, you be so-and-so, the prince, and you marry me because I was unhappy before, right? And before you learn those, what was possible? I think it's designed... I think we're designed to evolve and awaken continually, and some of these systems are in place to limit that, because an awakened human is such a powerful being, it's almost like the system can't contain it. Again, that's just my belief. It works for me, and it's built into some of what I show clients. Those stories in those movies are built around the happy ending, and the happy ending in those stories is the beginning of your journey, the beginning of your deep journey. You're going to have pinnacles of experience, peaks of excitement, and that's not what I would consider this rapture that can remain and you can open to. The journey of deepening understanding of the self and the other, and the self and the other, it's like a loop. This is why we're here now. Okay? So, to create something sustainable that fulfills you, and if this shows up as a relationship, I want it to be a relationship that's fulfilling, freeing, and fun. And when I said that people normally set up impossible equations, what I meant was they expect one partner to fulfill every need and desire. So just as a spoiler alert, this will never happen. It's impossible. It puts too much demand on the partner. They have their own needs and desires. So we're each responsible for meeting our own needs. I don't know if that resonates or if that feels like a letdown. When my stepfather and mother divorced many years ago, he came to me in tears and said I couldn't make her happy, as though he'd somehow failed me. And I was kind of dumbstruck, because she had her own patterns, and I said, of course, no one can make another person happy. Like, I wasn't resourced enough to go in depth into it, but think of the languaging. How can someone make you feel something? You make me so angry, you make me so this or that, you make me so sad. That's a sign that power has been given away, and this is an invitation to take it back. Like, let's make that commitment now, in all seriousness, because once you make this commitment, the rest of the process will go much more smoothly. And I'm here to help you hold that commitment and learn the signs and cues of when you're slipping out of it. So the commitment is to acknowledge that no one can make you feel anything, and no one has that much power over you. So I want you to say, I take my body back. I take my mind back. I take my soul back. Body first, okay? These other things are all wedded in the body. I take my body back. You can touch any piece of yourself. I take my body back. Feel yourself. Feel your aliveness in this moment. Feel your instrument for living life, and take that back. That's yours. This is your vehicle for joy, and this vehicle for experiencing the beauty all around. So what are you taking it back from? From everything that's ever hurt you, from this society, from anyone who's ever broke your heart. We're going to be relanguaging that now. So you are now free. And this is new commitment. So to anchor in a new commitment so that it sticks, it needs to have a name or a symbol. So the name idea is powerful. What's it called? What am I called? Some people truncate their names when they go through a trauma of some kind. I had a friend named Sam and Vita who became Sam, and a friend named Mariella who became Mari, and the list goes on. Because it's kind of like a way to step out of the feminine power. And sometimes people are still using their married name, or when they say their name, I am so-and-so. How do you say it? How does it feel? It's like you're reclaiming everything, all of your power. You're regathering it into this space, okay? So what symbol or what name makes sense? The symbol can be something that sits in front of you, or something that you carry, or a piece of jewelry, so that in the future when you get swept up again by external conditions, and you will during this training, because that's the nature of breaking a pattern, then you can snap right back, so you'll see the symbol. Oh yes, I'm in this dream again. And sometimes a wedding ring is a symbol of the opposite. It's almost like, I was reading something about these ancient spells, and there was a golden collar that certain ancient rulers could put on people in the story, and if the collar was on the person, they owned the person. The person would do what they wanted, what they commanded. And similar things can happen with a ring. Not necessarily. I'm just saying let go of the symbols and names that link to your former pattern, and then give them new symbols and names. And message me and tell me what you come up with on this. It's really important. It'll evolve over time. It doesn't need to be perfect, in all seriousness. And we'll go through, again, when there's mind chatter, the mind chatter can be associated with a certain name as well. Where did you get your ideas of intimacy and love? Was it from your parents? So the tragedy is most people don't get to ask themselves these questions ever, because it's kind of a luxury, isn't it? However, it's a luxury we deserve. It's a luxury we create. I mean, it shouldn't necessarily be a luxury. It's just the way it's all been set up. Like, my mother was pregnant when she was 17, and after that, her life was as a parent. She didn't get to sit and like, what's my ideal relationship look like? She had opportunities to do that later, but not for the longest relationship of her life. So it's profound and powerful to do this inquiry before you embark on a relationship. It's profound to do it in the middle. It's profound to do it anytime. A lot of time people do it when they have a crisis, but they come out unfinished and leap into something else. They give up some of their light again. That's okay. There's no judgment. Most people don't have this clarity at the onset, so they don't know what they're building, don't know what they're working toward. They keep banging their head against the wall thinking it's something they're doing or something their partner more commonly is doing or not doing. And this is a tragedy. So again, we've just reclaimed your power. Isn't that beautiful? So I acknowledge that it's a little bit of a semantic trick. I'm saying to come up with the kind of frequency of your ideal relationship. And then I'm saying reframe all these things because the things you thought you wanted perhaps weren't the most important things, or they won't fulfill you now. And again, rapture is about fulfilling relationships. It's not like rushing like a moth into a flame. There is some full surrender that we will go into later. How do you balance full surrender and boundaries? We'll go into that later. And it's about a more fulfilling relationship with the partner and yourself and your life and the archetype of the other gender and the archetype of your gender. We're going to build those in as we go. So another little assignment for you. What does your ideal partner feel like? What does your ideal partner look and feel like? I would close your eyes and just tune into this for a moment. It'll bring clarity if you're not driving. You'll get better at it, this visualizing process. You'll continually be getting more refined visions. And I had a client that said he was unable to visualize anything. I don't know, that's a story. So I had him sense it, feel it, touch it, do whatever you do with your gifts to get in touch with that. Now, you are where you are now, and some of your vision is residual from the past. The reason I have you do this now is because you need a reset. It needs revision as you go forward, okay? And most people would ask now, what does this thing make you feel? And I'm going to ask it in a different way because of this idea of victimhood. Now that no one can make you feel anything, what would this situation allow you to feel? This is the most important realization you can take from this. You desire the relationship, of course, and as I said, intimacy, it's a vehicle for growth and self-knowledge, right? And that happens in the way that we're doing this now. We're taking this intimacy as a path to deepening self-knowledge. That feeds into our own healing, and it feeds back into a much more profound and beautiful relationship. So a way to rephrase that question, what would being in this relationship with this ideal avatar and having your needs met in these ways, what would this allow you to feel? More accurately, what would this allow you to allow yourself to feel? And if you think about that, could you feel those things now? So I want you to just do a little journaling and jotting about this and figure out these needs you're after to get met, these emotional states you're after. Because the relationship and the intimacy is a vehicle for that. And go layer by layer, and I will support you with this. As Rumi wrote, which is always in my mind like some sort of mantra, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built up against it. I love that because it implies you're whole and complete already. So, please go do the homework, or continue to take a few minutes to refine that. Tell me this symbol of your commitment to inner power, or your name, and get to know a little bit about this thought tracking worksheet. Watch yourself throughout the day. Do some of this. We're going to spot some patterns in there that we can find the valuable clues. So, thank you so much for this powerful start, and I'll see you in the next lesson.